want to take a quick moment, and I'll try and make this video brief, but to talk about one of the concepts that is so prevalent in the theology of the body. We talk about living in love, we talk about making the kingdom present, and theology of the body is so much about that love and how we're called to love. One of these concepts that really is so much in the theology of the body is lust over love. As I've talked, Jesus calls us to love others. And he even talks about it so much so that he puts it as the most important thing we can do. When asked, and I think I've said this before, but when asked, what is the greatest commandment? Jesus says, love God above all things and love others as yourself. Those two sum up all of the commandments. And this is, again, that challenging call to love. This is that extraordinary example of that life-giving love that Jesus always has. But it's an important thing that we should pay attention to because it recognizes that we should love others in a way that is selfless. I've talked about the three forms of love, eros, philos, and agape, and that agapeic love really reminds us that every single person has priceless worth, value, and dignity, and that each person is an end in and of themselves. Each person is an end. They're not a mean. They're not a tool that we can use. Rather, they are a human being who is worth loving simply because they are, for no other reason than just who they are and that they are. People are not a means to our own gain. Agapeic love calls us to lift up the other simply for their own sake, and is again that separation from ourselves where we consider the other in the equation only. But however, this doesn't require us to not love ourselves. Jesus calls us to love others as ourselves, which means that we must first love ourselves. But when we love ourselves, that doesn't mean that we're just doing things for our own gain. We're not using people for our own gain only, because that's not actually loving. That's not actually even loving ourselves. First of all, that's demeaning to their priceless worth and their dignity, but it also separates ourselves from God. We're pushing ourselves further away from our own fulfillment by hurting others. They go hand in hand. So in the end, we're called to love people, use objects, not use people and love objects. There's an important distinction there. I'm going to say it again. Love people and use objects, not use people and love objects. When we consider that we're all on the same team, we're all part of the children of God, we're all part of the body of Christ, it really puts that into perspective of saying, when I hurt somebody else, I'm hurting myself. When I lift up somebody else, I myself am being lifted up as well. We're working through this together, and I'm not trying to use somebody to push them out of the way. Rather, I recognize that all of us can win. It's such a good realization to have. It's not that we're all competing for spots that are limited. It's that we're all trying to get there together, and that there is room for each of us. So again, loving ourselves is not just doing what we want, like stuffing ourselves full of candy because we're going to get the tummy ache. It's actually not good for us just to always do every single thing we want and fulfill every desire that comes about. No, that's hedonistic. No, loving means doing what's best for us, eating healthy, working out, those kinds of things. That's the bodily things, but the spiritual ones would be loving others, loving ourselves, and being able to pray, being able to be kind, be loving, all of those things. And again, it's best for others, but it's also best for ourselves. There's not that separation, again, of you and I will get there on our own. No, we want to bring each other to love. I think that's, again, played out so much so in the vocation of marriage. Vocation of marriage is we want to live in a way to get each other to heaven. My goal is to get my wife to heaven. Her goal is to get me to heaven. That's beautiful. That's what we're trying to do, is to bring each other up so that none of us are left behind. Have a good one.